I got a question, and it is not a comfortable question to ask. Was the Scarlet Enclave a success or not? Because the results, supposedly, they are already in. It is 2 days after the reset, and that means the numbers kicked in. Now, of course, I think it is way more important to wait until later in the tier to see if it has staying power, if long-term people actually cared for this raid or not. But either way, the launch numbers are very significant because that should indicate to you whether people had any interest in this raid or not. Not everybody, I would say most people actually do not raid on launch day. They get their guild and they raid on whatever day their guild raids. So a lot of people were watching the streams and looking at people progressing, and they made their decision to play this phase or not based on those news. That's usually how it goes anyway. But we are at the good old ironforce.pro, where they take up all the logs, all the compilation of people uploading the raids, and they add up how many people were playing. So if we go here and we go to Classic Season of Discovery, and we go down here, we can look at the graph. And sorry for the suspense, I didn't mean to cut it off. There you go. This is the 2-week period that includes post-raid release. It ended in the 14th of April. As you guys know, the 10th of April was the launch of the raid, 8th of April was the start of the phase, and then they put like dailies and stuff. But the raid came out in the 10th, and there was 4 days in that raid until the lockout. And the total number of raiders, including all the other raids, this is only unique characters, right, is 69,774 unique characters. If we compare it to the previous segment, it was actually 69 against 200. So a launch of a new raid, a new tier launch, increased the population of WoW by 500 people. Yes, I would say that's rather unprecedented. If you look at every other tier launch, you can see there is a brief spike in here, there's a spike in here. This, I believe, was Blackwing Lair, and this wave was Molten Core when everybody quit in phase 3 and they came back. But even phase 3, which was very poorly received, there was a spike. You know, people came in and tried out Sunken Temple before they hated it and quit. So it is very weird to see such a little spike on supposedly such a very hyped new raid, the first new raid Vanilla got in forever, you know, the entire meme. Now I could sit here and ponder to you and tell you exactly that I know why this happened, but there is more than one reason. That's the reality. Personally, all I got to go on is that what people tell me. I got to talk with several high-ranking people, several people that were in the world first race, none of the people in Bricked or none of the above, but still pretty, I would say it's like top 5 guilds in the world, stuff like that. I got some pretty interesting comments on what they felt about the raid, and you might think, oh, why do you care about the top world first racer people? Well, their opinions, whether you like it or not, they percolate into the wider player base, because the wider player base is not gonna see the last boss of the raid. Those are the people that see it first, so their view, their opinion, in a way, is the first impression of the raid. And this is why I think that making progression bad at the launch is not always a great idea. There was a lot of problems with the raid. This is unrelated footage because we didn't get to see the bosses. Okay, this is just us trying out the first boss, but there were 2 bosses where they were casting a spell that was a second long, and if you didn't kick it, you died. Now, to me that is very funny, because that's a retail mechanic. You see, in retail WoW, interrupts are not on the global cooldown, and they also cannot miss, but interrupts are not on the GCD. So if you make a 1 second mechanic, it's fine. All you gotta do is press your interrupt, and that's it, you kick it. However, when they copy-pasted that mechanic into Classic, the global cooldown is 1.5 seconds, half a second longer than the casting speed is. So that means if you pressed any ability, you could not kick that spell. Even if you reacted in 0 milliseconds, instant reaction, it was literally impossible to kick that spell. And that basically meant they would have one guy, usually a rogue, do nothing, absolutely nothing, except kick all fight, just because they couldn't reliably kick it otherwise. Isn't that freaking stupid? Of course, there is also the comments of bosses being overtuned. Beatrix in particular seems to be a big one. People are still saying it's impossible even after the nerfs, and yes, there were nerfs. You can see right here. So Beatrix in particular, the one that you couldn't kick, they nerfed all her spells. Instead of making the cast time longer so you could actually kick it the intended way, they just nerfed the spells because they know people cannot kick it. It is really weird. Honestly, that's such a bizarre decision. They made it almost on the spot. It was a day after the raid came out, right? But they nerfed the hair damage in general. And a little later after that, there is also more nerfs to Balnazar. That's the first boss. So yes, the raid is getting nerfed, and I expect the raid to get nerfed even more. And you can say there is a lot of reasons that people didn't come back for this raid, or that people didn't try it out. Maybe people figured that SoD is ending, and why would you invest on an ending game? That's fine. That's plenty reasonable. That's the reason I personally didn't try to go out of my way to progress through it, because what's the point, right? There is also the beta for Mist of Pandaria coming out in like 2 weeks. Also the ranking grinding anniversary. I am also part of this problem. People are ranking in anniversary and they don't have the time to invest into playing Season of Discovery right now. That's a lot of people. I know a lot of people that play both SoD and anniversary, and they are ranking right now, and ranking takes up all your free time basically. Like, are you gonna choose rank freaking 14 or getting the Scarlet raid? Like, come on man, like, people know what they want. I made an entire video complaining about the ranking system. I freaking hate it. But in the end, it hardly matters what I think, because this graph is not about what I think. This graph means that the general population of WoW didn't come for this raid. And I think it is very important to stop talking about opinion for a minute. I may have my opinions about the raid, I may not have my opinions about the raid, but this may be one of the first times where we can see a very clear division between what Blizzard thinks the players want and what the players actually want. This is Agren, the lead developer of Classic WoW. He said, we really want your progression through this content to be satisfying, and part of this satisfaction comes from overcoming a challenge. Truly new content deserves a bit more friction. So he is pretty transparently saying that he thinks new content should be harder than the content people are used to. And once again, you can have your opinion, I can have my opinion on what should be easier or harder. It hardly matters. Because when it was public knowledge that the raid was really hard, people didn't show up. There was people doing Nax Ramas a week before, and they got the same amount of people almost doing the new raid that everybody was supposed to come back for the day after. Clearly, something didn't hit right. And going back to my point of first impressions being such a big deal, when it is perceived, when this is known that a lot of people didn't come back for this new raid, that the new face is not popping off, that creates a little bit of a self-fulfilling prophecy of people not wanting to come because they feel that it's not popping off. So I do not think this is gonna revert anytime soon. Maybe if they make it very public, this is what I would do if I were Blizzard. I would give like a blanket nerf to all the raid and make it as public as possible. That's how I would convince players to come back. I assure you that will get people to come back, even though every week that you wait is gonna be less people coming back, you know. But I'll tell you something, when the top players of SoD, the people that actually cleared this raid, they are saying they had no fun because they thought the raid was too hard and annoying, what hope does the average Season of Discovery player, which, let's be honest, is not a very good player because we do not play this game to play a freaking esport. That's retail WoW, and I don't play retail WoW. What hope does the average player have in this raid? I know personally you may be one of those good players and you may look at this raid and the progression and think this challenge is great for you. And yes, measuring the success of a raid on the amount of players is not a perfect metric, but I would say it's a damn good proxy to gauge if people are interested in doing this or not. There is a non-zero chance that the raid grows and the population in 2 weeks goes up a lot. That will most likely be after they nerf the raid really freaking hard again, so there's gonna be a bit of a discussion of was it because of the nerfs or because people are eventually just enduring the pain and progressing and there's more people piling up. That's not for me to say. One mistake I think they made is that they put a lot of gear on dailies. First of all, Classic players hate dailies. Like if you talk to people that quit retail and went to Classic, a lot of those people will tell you that they hate dailies. That's an entire freaking video, and Mop is gonna be a bit of a pain in the butt. But they put just about half the gear that you can get in this phase in dailies. And if you can already get half the gear from the raid, from outside the raid, I mean, a lot of people are gonna look at that and go, okay, I gotta progress for 5 hours a day, for several days a week, so we can get this entire raid on farm, and it is not for that much gear because I can get half of it for free. Well, not for free, but from dailies. Yeah, that is also hurting the proposition of value of going to the raid. A lot of people, I can totally understand why some people don't want to do it. Yes, I know people enjoy raiding, I enjoy raiding, but a lot of the people, let's be honest, they raid because they want the freaking gear. And if you don't put the gear in the raid, people are not gonna raid. A lot of them. So yes, I wouldn't call this a retrospective because I didn't do the raid, and I am probably not gonna do the raid until they nerf it to the freaking ground, when it is pointless anyway, but I do hope they look at these numbers and they are not defensive about it anymore. They stop being so defensive about it, admit, or well, not admit, not even publicly admit, accept that really hard raids, complex fights do not have any business in Classic WoW, and that is not me saying it, that's the Classic WoW population disagreeing with Blizzard. The voice of the people is seen in this freaking graph, and that's why I pull this graph every freaking video, because it matters. Don't make up excuses on why people didn't like the raid, just face it. I sure do hope, because they are working on Classic Plus, right? They are not gonna announce it, but they are working on Classic Plus. I sure do hope that their vision for Classic isn't just retail heroic with borrowed power from BFA and no Pandaren. That's basically what SoD ended up being on the last phase. That Nax Rama seal is literally Azerite gear. Don't mess with me, man. That thing sucks. They got like 60 people on the team now, and let's freaking hope those 60 people are new and they are not from retail. Because if it is the same people that designed the system from Nax Ramas, and the people that decided against all odds that hard raids were the way to go in Classic, I think we're cooked. Those people are fried. Eon Hasicostas fried their Leol brains. There is no saving those people, man. I don't know who those people are, and I hope it is not people from retail that got transferred over. I sure do hope, but I think we're gonna find out either way. Subscribe, join the Discord, and thank you for watching.